So Eyewitness News has reported that 32 survivors of the Usindiso fire have been deported. The group was among hundreds of people displaced when a raging blaze gutted the building last year in August, killing 77 people. The 32 undocumented migrants were initially set to be deported in December, but the inquiry probing the Marshalltown fire needed them in the country. Let's now speak to a human rights activist, Chinnah, who was there since the day and since day one, and he joins us now in studio to have that conversation. Andy, good morning. Thank you so much for making time for us. So confirmation that the 32 have now left the country.
Correct. 2 weeks prior to that, so last week Tuesday, the mostly Tanzanians left on a flight, and then were returned to OR Tambo because the plane was shaking so much, so they returned. And they flew out again on Wednesday. The Malawian nationals, were about 4 of them, were deported 4 weeks before that.
Okay. Then the other issue that's raised in the Eyewitness News report is the conditions that they were living under while at the Lindela Repatriation Center. But I just need clarity on this. So the Commission asked them to stay behind, even though they're undocumented, because the Commission needs them for its investigation.
I think the word undocumented means that we've got a problem with our Home Affairs Department. In fact, they were issued with, remember most of them lost their documentation in the fire, and they were actually issued with letters from their embassy to say that they are in the country. So they decided to stay to help the Commission to tell... They decided to stay because they had a choice whether they wanted to be deported, and they decided to stay to help the Commission to actually unveil the truth and be witnesses because they lived in the building. So they decided to stay, and when the Commission had completed, the Commission said, well, we don't need you as witnesses anymore. You've told your story. You're welcome to leave. They have not been happy at Lindela. You know, the situation at Lindela is critical.
So during the investigation, they were staying at Lindela?
During the investigation, yes. They started off being housed at the Hoffland Park Recreation Center immediately after the fire. And then on a Friday, they were rounded up by Home Affairs and taken to JP Police Station. And they requested that, can they please go to Lindela because they were beaten up by the police at JP Police Station. So they decided to go to Lindela and live there until the end of the Commission.
Okay. So while they were at the Lindela Repatriation Center, how were they able to assist the Commission in its investigation?
We did the link up in terms of them actually providing evidence via link. We had Norton Rose Fulbrights provided us with legal aid, and had a lawyer out there actually doing the broadcast to the Commission.
Okay. Now let's speak about the conditions that they were living under. What did they tell you?
Well, the videos that I've seen, and prior to them being deported, I was at Lindela on the Friday with the Lawyers for Human Rights. And, you know, the food, for instance, they were getting food at 9 o'clock in the morning, a cup of coffee. What they were told was, you know, this is your breakfast. And then at 2 o'clock they were getting some food which they said was soup. But if you look at it, it is very frozen little pieces of vegetable in a soupy kind of thing with a dollop of pap, and that was it. Remember, most of these individuals also are of the Muslim faith, and it was Eid and Ramadan, and they were fasting, so they were not able to get the nutrition to fast for the entire day. They actually chose, and if you may recall, just 2 weeks prior to them being deported, about 65 of the detainees at that center actually walked out of the facility, which has resulted in all the management being replaced.
Yes, I remember that incident, yeah.
So it was bad, and I think the Department of Home Affairs has said that people escaped. But according to their witness, and what I've seen on video, is that those individuals walked out of the facility.
Yeah, but which is also illegal, though, because you are currently in detention, and none of the 32 were amongst those people that escaped.
7 of them walked out.
7 of them walked out?
Yeah.
And were they ever returned, or did they ever return?
No.
So they're still in the country, perhaps?
Perhaps in the country, yeah.
Perhaps. So why then did they go to the Lindela Repatriation Center if they want to stay behind? They want to be in South Africa?
Why did they go to there?
Yeah.
Because
I don't know, earlier on you almost spoke as though that it was their choice.
Yes.
Yeah, to go to the Lindela Repatriation Center.
Yeah.
So why would they exercise their choice to go to the Lindela Repatriation Center and to walk out again?
They had a choice of either staying at JP Police Station.
Okay.
Or Lindela. And they chose to rather be at Lindela.
Okay. So after that incident took place, what happened then to the management of the facility and also the requirements for the people who are under detention?
Sorry, I don't understand that question.
So remember that there was this incident that happened, the one that we speak about, where the people you say that they walked out,
yes,
but they escaped. The Home Affairs Department is using the phrasing that they escaped.
Correct.
And then there was a call for an investigation. And management being investigated as well. Correct. So I want to know then, since that incident has taken place, what happened to the management of the center and whether that has had an impact at all with regards to the requirements of detainees, because the United Nations also says that this is what's required at a repatriation center.
Yeah, I know all the management has been replaced. In fact, when I arrived on the Friday, they told me no visitors allowed, but because I was with the human rights lawyers, we were allowed on site. We weren't even allowed to give dates, to actually break their fast. So they told us that it's actually considered a crime scene because of that breakout. So you can understand that the conditions have changed drastically.
Yeah.
I think one of the things is that the management has been changed because if you look at the video footage, people were walking out. There was no such a thing as, armed people breaking out of a facility. So I presume that the Department of Home Affairs has said, no, this is just a walkout. It's not an escape.
Okay. So what are the lessons then from the experience of these 32 that should be drawn from this and the conversation that should be happening with the Department of Home Affairs?
I think it's also the embassies that need to come on board to look after the nationals when they are visiting another country. So it's not just Department of Home Affairs, it's also the embassies. The lessons to be learnt out of this is that these individuals have been there for more than 120 days. Normally the law says after 120 days they are supposed to be released. Home Affairs needs to be open. Freedom of press is so important for our democracy. Press have not been allowed into that facility to actually witness for themselves what is going on at the facility. So one of the things that I'm going to be pushing for very hard, and I've been on the subject for a long time, is that we must have press available to have a look at those conditions. We can't have reports from South African Human Rights Commission, which sits on reports but never release the reports on it. We need open and transparent, independent people to go out there and have a look at what the conditions are.
Okay. Andy, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
That was human rights activist Andy Chinnah on the 32 undocumented nationals who have now been deported to the various countries.